VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And thank you for joining us on Crosstalk here on the VCY America Network. Folks, you may not realize this, but U.S. sovereignty is under attack again. It is just a proliferation of issues that are coming down or through or working with the United Nations are hitting this country one after the other. We're going to quickly get to our topic today because there is another UN treaty that is taking center stage that is on a fast track for passage. Here to discuss this and some related issues with us is Phyllis Schlafly. You know her as the founder and president of Eagle Forum. Phyllis, thank you for joining us on short notice here today.
Hello, Jim. Always good to join you.
Phyllis, we've got a number of issues to talk about, just a plethora of UN treaties that are hitting us right now, and it just seems like we have seen a huge push in the last several months, in this last year, of these United Nations treaties. Why is such a surge going on at this time?
Well, Obama doesn't have much foreign policy experience for the campaign, and he wants to wrap himself in some UN treaties to show that he's an important player in the world. And he is a globalist. He really would like to move us into global government. And these treaties will do that, because every one of the UN treaties cuts a big hunk out of our sovereignty. In other words, it puts some panel of UN busybodies over in Geneva or Jamaica or Hamburg or some other place, most of whom don't like us, able to tell us what to do. And we don't want to do that. And now the one we've devoted the most of our effort to, the Law of the Sea Treaty, I think we're going to win that. And
yeah, as a matter of fact, you were on with us just 6 weeks ago talking about the Lost Treaty, the Law of the Sea Treaty. Yesterday, the Washington Times carried a story quoting Senator DeMint saying this thing is now dead. We've got the 34 senators against the treaty. What's your reaction to that?
Well, that's great, and the last two signed up to make it 34. And the founding fathers were so smart. They knew that the treaties were very dangerous to our country, and so they fixed it. So treaties have to be ratified by 2/3 of the Senate in order to be valid, and that means if you've got 34 voting no, how's your math, Jim? And mm-hmm. that it cannot be ratified.
Right. That's it.
And the Law of the Sea Treaty was a bad news when Reagan rejected it in the 1980s, and it's still bad news. And what it would do is to give these busybodies over in Geneva and an international tribunal not only able to make decisions which cut into our sovereignty, but it would enable the international lawyers to sue us for damages for things they make up about climate change, and then it would enable these international busybodies to control all the riches at the bottom of the seas and make us spend our money to bring them up, and then they could distribute the wealth of it to their friendly dictators all over the world.
Phyllis, I don't know about you, but it's very bothersome to me that only 1/3 of our U.S. senators, or one vote over 1/3, 34 of the 100 senators, have the courage to stand up for the sovereignty of this nation, and nearly 2/3 are willing to surrender that sovereignty to an international body. I mean, that just really bothers me.
Well, a lot of them are taken in by the propaganda for globalism, and of course I think they should look at Europe and see what it means when you try to get people of different ethnic derivations together in some government, because they just don't know what they're doing. And the European Union is about to collapse. It's been a terrible failure, and we don't want to be in any world government that they are connected with.
Phyllis Schlafly with us today, and folks, as it appears with the news coming out yesterday from Senator DeMint that they've garnered the 34 senators to be against that treaty. You do need a 2/3 vote to ratify a treaty, and it appears that the Law of the Sea Treaty is going to be dead for the present, but don't be mistaken. This will rear its ugly head once again. Phyllis, and
I would suggest that if your senator has signed on to be against it, thank him, and if he hasn't, ask him why he hasn't, because the pressure is on from a lot of powerful money sources to keep pushing for that treaty.
As this battle appears now to have been won, or should I say at least maybe a reprieve for now, there have been 2 additional UN treaties now that are taking center stage. Next Friday, July 27th, it's being reported now that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, acting on behalf of us, the United States, is expected to sign an international treaty known as the UN's Arms Trade Treaty, ATT. What do we know about this treaty?
Well, I think it's going to interfere with our Second Amendment rights, for one thing. But for another thing, I think they feel it can interfere with our belief that we have to have an anti-missile defense. And you remember Ronald Reagan was so believing that we must have an anti-missile defense, and we must,
yes,
because there these crazy nations like Iran and North Korea that are trying to build nuclear weapons, and we have to be able to protect the lives of American people. In fact, that's the prime number one duty of government, is to provide for the common defense. And the enemies of our country have always tried to dissuade us from having an anti-missile defense, and Obama's dragging his feet on it. And we think that there are provisions of this treaty that Hillary is about to sign, which would interfere with our building an anti-missile defense.
Well, Phyllis, what's so bizarre about this arms trade treaty is that earlier this month of July, Iran, whom you talked about, one of these rogue countries with nuclear aspirations, Iran of all countries was elected to a body that oversees this UN conference negotiating a global arms treaty. I mean, are Iran of all places accused of having their own record of weapons proliferation, illicit nuclear activities, gross human rights abuses? Doesn't this alone disqualify Iran from having such a position? I mean, they're under sanction by the UN.
No, all of these offbeat, oddball countries sit on UN panels in the World Trade Organization. Some of these countries that don't even know how to have an honest exchange, like Cuba or some of these other countries, get to sit on these panels. And we seldom have a representative on, but if we did, it would be only one, and we'd be outvoted every time. All these UN treaties are a bad deal for the U.S., and they all take away some of our sovereignty because they all set up a mechanism to give us orders, to tell us what we can do.
Folks, I'm going to quickly give you some phone numbers, and then we're going to be moving on to another UN treaty that is really on the fast track. I'll get to that in a moment. But next week Friday, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, on your behalf, is planning to sign this international treaty as the UN Arms Trade Treaty. Now, keep in mind, it does have to be ratified by a 2/3 vote of the Senate. We don't know where our senators are all standing on this at this point. But here are some phone numbers for your voice to be heard. First of all, I'm going to give you a couple numbers to the State Department and then also to the U.S. Senate. Secretary Clinton's office, her office number is area code 202-647-5291. That's 202-647-5291. Her chief of staff is Cheryl Mills. Her number, 202-647-5548. 202-647-5548. There's the Public Communications Division there at the Department of State. Their number 202-647-6575. That's 6575, and then because it's the Senate that ratifies treaties, it would be imperative for you to contact your 2 U.S. senators. You can get their individual numbers at senate.gov, or you can call the Senate switchboard at 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. And Phyllis, if you were talking to your senator right now, what would you say in regard to this arms trade treaty?
Vote no on any UN treaty. They're all bad.
Well, Phyllis, this is leading us to our main topic of discussion today, as there is another UN treaty taking center stage. There are many warning that this treaty is a threat to families. It's called the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, or CRPD. What can be so wrong, Phyllis, about people with disabilities having rights?
Well, the trouble is it gives those rights not to the disabled person, not to the parents of the disabled person, but to some UN busybody. And it all hides behind a nice-sounding phrase, the best interest of the child. Mm-hmm. Now, the best interest of the child has been in English law for centuries. It was in the Blackstone commentaries, but it always meant that the parents were the best ones to decide what was good for the child, and they could not be overridden by judges or other governmental authorities. Now, in recent years, American jurisprudence has redefined the best interest of the child, and now it's what some judge says it is. Now, that's bad enough that the judge can override the opinion of the parent. In fact, there are a couple of cases I've written about where the judge decided what church the kid should go to or what school the kid should go to, which is just outrageous. But at any rate, now they want to give it to these UN people in their panels and then they want the UN Treaty on the Rights of Disabled Children to override every decision of a parent of a disabled child if the government decides that that's in the best interest of the child. And what we need to do is restore the definition of best interest of the child to parents, because that's the way it ought to be. Certainly not some judge, some government authority, and certainly not some panel of UN busybodies.
Yeah, and this really strikes at the heart of our sovereignty as a nation. I mean, do we really need an international body? Do we really need this a United Nations treaty for us to be able to deal with persons with disabilities? I mean, can't we deal with these issues as a sovereign nation?
Well, I think we can, and again, this UN treaty, like all UN treaties, cut a piece out of our sovereignty and set up some UN panel to decide that we have to change our laws, that we have to do A, B, and C, and in this one it's particularly obnoxious because it's how these UN panels can override the decision of the parents.
We're speaking with Phyllis Schlafly today, the founder and president of Eagle Forum. You can get more information at eagleforum.org, eagleforum.org. And we're talking about a new UN convention. Well, it's not new, but it's new on the center stage of the political horizon right now. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We're going to get more into it after the break. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, what is meant by the term convergent evolution?
Chris, evolutionists use this when different organisms have the same organ, but yet they're not thought to be closely related. Consider certain land-dwelling crabs and their sense of smell. Their smell organs are essentially identical to that in insects. Now, crabs and insects are very different. According to evolution, insects came on land long before the land crabs did. The ocean crabs have an extremely different sense of smell, so when the land crabs finally made it, they evolved the same smell organ as the insects, thus convergent evolution. Chris, you see, this is really non-data. It's putting the evolutionary spin on whatever's found. But creation makes much better sense of the evidence. It all started back in Genesis.
Thanks, Dr. Morris. For more on creation, visit our website at www.icr.org.
Folks, we're talking about another UN treaty that is taking center stage. And I have never seen a UN treaty that has going so fast as what this one is. How fast is it going? It had a public hearing, not a public hearing. They had brought in testimony and different experts before a committee last week, Thursday. The committee is slated to vote on it this week, Thursday. And Senator John Kerry is vowing that the full U.S. Senate will have it passed by next week. Phyllis, I mean, this thing, we're talking within a scope of 14 days, a UN treaty going before a committee voting on it, and then it going before the full U.S. Senate if all goes as they pledge.
Yes, they're trying to ram it through, and it's important that the people listening to this program call their U.S. senators, and if they can't remember the name or the acronym of this UN treaty on disabled, what does it say? What's it called? On disability?
Yeah, on the rights of persons with disabilities.
On the rights of persons with disabilities, just say, vote no on any UN treaty. And this treaty on the rights of disabled people, like many of these treaties, in fact, most of them, sets up a committee of so-called, quote, experts, close quote. They call them experts. I wonder, they do this in a lot of treaties. It's going to be a committee of experts that's going to be able to review our compliance and tell us what we have to do and how we have to change our laws. And there's one of them that is committee of experts is going to tell us how we have to change our textbooks to comport with what the feminists want. So in this particular treaty on the rights of disabled persons, they want a committee of experts to monitor our compliance with whatever they want, which means doing what the UN experts decide, not what the parents decide.
Phyllis, I'm really concerned by the bipartisan support for this particular treaty. It was last Thursday when this Senate Foreign Relations Committee had their hearing that speaking in favor of this treaty, along comes none other than Senator John McCain, who said he was there on behalf of former Senator Bob Dole to speak in favor of this treaty, that we need to protect the rights of persons with disabilities.
Well, who's not protecting them? We probably do more for them than anybody else in the world.
And here we have John Kerry making that pitch, and then he's touting the other colleagues of his on his side of the aisle that are coming out in favor of this. I saw something in here. Yeah, it was Michael Farris who had pointed out that, Article 4, Section 1, Section E means that the legal standard for this is bizarre. The legal standard for the number of handicapped spaces required for parking at your church, the number of handicapped spaces, is going to be established by the UN, not your local government, not your church. Aren't we carrying this too far?
Well, these countries that sit on these panels, the people probably don't even have automobiles. So how do they know? We have automobiles. We have handicapped parking spaces everywhere. I have a handicapped sticker, and I think we're perfectly well taken care of. Mm-hmm. And the idea that some of these countries where they don't even have automobiles, they're going around on bicycles or carrying their wood on their head as they walk through the forest, should sit on panels to tell us how many parking spaces they have. It's just so ludicrous. You can hardly believe that Americans are involved in this. And the idea that John McCain is coming along and saying we should do this, we're tired of John McCain. We're even tireder of Bob Dole. So let's look for some people who stand up for America and for our ability to make our own laws and decide such things as such important things as how many parking spaces are there.
Yeah, and keep in mind, and you brought it out, Phyllis, it keeps talking about the best interest of the child. And what we have to keep in mind is that when we talk about best interest of the child, it doesn't mean mom and dad making that decision, but it's judges, governmental bodies, it's judges who are going to determine, we believe this is in the best interest of the child. Without
and UN experts.
Yes, without even knowing what the needs of that child really are.
Well, it's so bizarre. You just can hardly believe that intelligent people and our representatives are coping with this, and yet you say they're going to vote on it in committee on Thursday this week.
2 days from now, 48 hours from now. Matter of fact, less than 48 hours.
Call your senator immediately. What's that number to call your senator? The
senator's number is 202-224-3121. 224-3121. Folks, I want to give you two other numbers because on this Senate Foreign Relations Committee, we also have the majority office and the minority office, the ones who make up the majority in the committee and the minority. The majority is led by Democrats. Their number on the committee, this is committee phone numbers, the majority number is 202-224-4651. 202-224-4651. The minority party is the Republicans. Their phone number for the members who sit on this committee, 202-224-6797. And as I was on the Committee on Foreign Relations website just moments ago, they have their meeting scheduled Thursday, July 19th, 9:30 Eastern Time in the morning. They're going to be meeting in the Senate Dirksen Building, room G50, and on their agenda, one item, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2006. And Phyllis, this was signed by Barack Obama, President of the United States, June 30th, 2009. Our president has already signed this, and now it's going through the Senate for the committee to pass, and then for a 2/3 vote by the U.S. Senate.
And Jim, all these UN treaties have long names, so just for simplicity's sake, I think when you make your call, your message is vote no on the treaty about disabilities. Disabilities is the key word, and I'd say vote no on the treaty about disabilities because we don't want the UN telling us how to treat our people with disabilities. We're doing just fine, thank you.
And that's the problem because people, senators make you think, well, if you're against this treaty, then you're against people with disabilities.
Yeah. Oh, it's really bizarre. You can hardly believe that intelligent Americans are trying to push this along. Vote no. We do not want some UN experts or bureaucrats in some faraway town telling us what they think the best interest of the child is and what we should do to protect our kids with disabilities. That's a matter for anybody in the U.S. For our laws, we've got wonderful laws in favor of disabilities and for the parents themselves.
Phyllis, let me ask you this. If this treaty is ratified, do you believe that the next attempt will be on to pass the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child?
Yes, because it's very similar. I noticed that Mike Farris has testified against both of them, and the Rights of the Child treaty is very far-reaching. It's really to take the power away from the parents altogether, because, as we know, Hillary is the chief spokesman of those who believe that the village should raise the child, not parents. And, village is just the code word for government. So that means when you talk about village, it can mean the U.S. government, the Department of Education, the public schools, and now they want it to mean these UN experts, too, who send their monitoring committee over to find out what we're doing and tell us to shape up and join the globalism and do what the UN people tell us.
Phyllis Schlafly has been with us here today on Crosstalk. Phyllis, for those who like more information, not only on this, but other of the UN treaties and related issues, tell us about your website.
Well, it's eagleforum.org, and I have written a lot about these UN treaties, and I want to tell everybody we can beat this, because it does look like that despite powerful forces on the other side, we are going to beat the UN Treaty on the Law of the Sea. And that will be a great victory for American sovereignty. But this treaty on disabilities, it comes right into trying to tell families what they should do about their own children, and that's intolerable. Call your U.S. senators today. What's that number again, Jim?
202-224-3121. Phyllis, thank you so much for being with us. A closing thought you'd like to share?
Well, I think when you talk to your candidates for office this year, ask them where they stand on these UN treaties, and if they're supporting any of them, give them a piece of your mind and tell them we want to run our own country. We don't want some bureaucrats in faraway lands to run our country for us.
Phyllis, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Jim. Have a good day. God bless.
Bye-bye now. That was Phyllis Schlafly with us from Eagle Forum. We caught her on short notice here today, but because of the imminency of these matters, wanted to gain her perspective on it. Let me quickly recap what has transpired here. Number one is the fact that it appears that the Law of the Sea Treaty, the UN treaty called the Law of the Sea Treaty, is going to go back out to sea because of the fact that it was brought forth yesterday by Senator DeMint that said they have garnered 34 senators who are now in opposition to this treaty. Therefore, the Senate does not have the two-thirds vote to pass the Law of the Sea Treaty, the UN treaty that gives up our sovereignty on the seas, here even in many different waterways in many different regards. So that one is being put to pasture for now. No doubt it will come back again, but there are two additional UN treaties that are now taking center stage. For instance, next week, Friday, July 27th, it's being reported that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, acting on behalf of the U.S., is expected to sign an international treaty known as the Arms Trade Treaty, another UN treaty that is going to strike at the very core of our Second Amendment here as a nation. Many concerned about this. And what's so also bizarre about this is that Iran was elected to a body that is overseeing this UN conference. They've been negotiating here through early July this global arms treaty, and Iran is sitting on this. Iran, which is under sanctions by the United Nations. If you would like to contact Secretary Clinton's office, she is saying that she's going to sign this next week, Friday. The number 202-647-5291. That's 202-647-5291. Your senators as well at 202-224-3121. And then we're talking today about a treaty of the UN that's on a very fast track, the UN Treaty on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Just had a hearing last Thursday. This Thursday, the 19th, less than 48 hours from now, this committee is reconvening to take up the measure, and their desire is to pass it out of the committee to take to the full U.S. Senate. And it is next week already that they are hoping to bring this forth for a full vote before the United States Senate. And Senator Kerry is saying we will pass this by July 26. We're going to be taking a break, and we'll come back to get your reaction to these. I'll also share with you some of the further concerns by Michael Farris, who testified before the committee. But if you'd like to get on your board with your thoughts on these issues today, our telephone number, 800-733-9829. 800-733-9829. Do we need a United Nations body that's going to tell parents with children of disabilities what is in the best interest of their child? We'll be back in just 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY America Network.
The Bible tells us that no man knows the day or the hour of Christ's return, but we are told to be ready, to look for that blessed hope, and to occupy until he comes. The Bible characterizes what the last times would be like, and observing world conditions today, we know the Lord could return at any time. When Jesus' disciples asked, "What will be the sign of thy coming, and of the end of the world?" Jesus carefully explained what the world would be like. In the book, 40 Irrefutable Signs of the Last Generation, author Noah Hutchings takes a thought-provoking look at these signs of the last generation and the importance of being ready for the Lord's return. This book is the size of a workbook and features over 200 pages presenting 40 irrefutable signs of the last generation. One copy of this book is available for a donation of $20, and 2 copies are available for a donation of $35. To make your donation to VCY America, call 1-800-729-9829. That's 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk here on VCY America as another UN treaty is taking center stage on a very, very, very fast track. Had a hearing last Thursday, going to be voted on this Thursday in the committee, and vowed to be passed by the Senate next week. It's called the UN Convention. This is a treaty called the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, or CRPD. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, or you can say the UN Convention on Persons with Disabilities as you talk with your senators. But looking at a WND article on this, there is a story talking about the rights of parents in the United States once again are in the bullseye of a UN plan that's being reviewed by the U.S. Senate, this time under the proposed UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Supporters of the plan to bring the United States under the oversight of global standards say they'd like to see the proposal adopted by later this month when the Americans with Disabilities Act anniversary is marked. The plan was signed by Barack Obama in 2009, and the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations held a hearing where Senator Jim DeMint said he didn't see a need for it. He said, "Why should we submit ourselves to other nations who have been far less effective and committed to this cause? We can be the light of the hill. Why should we submit instead of lead?" Or rather lead, he said. Why should we submit instead of lead? Bad wording there in their paragraph. But supporters say it's about time that the United States start taking lessons from other nations on how to accommodate those with needs, and its ratification would work to ensure the equality and protection of disabled children who are vulnerable to mistreatment and discrimination. Opponents say it's just another world government power grab that would violate the rights of Americans. Michael Farris from Homeschool Legal Defense said, "We all want to show our love and care for people with disabilities." He insists that this treaty has all the trappings of socialism at its finest, as it would seize control from the legal guardians of children and hand it over to the government and an international organization. He said this treaty will give United Nations and government agents, not parents, the authority to decide all educational and treatment issues for disabled children. All of the rights that parents have under both traditional American law, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, will be undermined by this treaty. Obama's signature on the plan in 2009 moved it forward. At the time, he said it was a civil rights issue, and instead this treaty must be, and he insisted it must be enforced. Disability rights aren't just civil rights to be enforced here at home. They're universal rights to be recognized and promoted around the world, Obama said at the time. As long as we're people still too easily succumb to casual discrimination or fear of the unfamiliar, we've still got more work to do. We've heard that on so many other issues too, haven't we? Farris suggested that the lack of support is good, but parents must not overlook the possibility that somehow the floodgates for government intrusion in the family's lives would be opened. He said parental rights will be eviscerated by the mandatory application of the best interest of the child. And if parents think that private education is best for their child, this treaty, given the government authority and legal duty to override that judgment and keep the child in the government-approved program that the officials think is best for the child. He said, according to Farris, the language of Article 7 should raise a major red flag, as the government would be given authority to make decisions regarding disabled children in every situation. In all actions concerning children with disabilities, the best interest of the child shall be primary consideration. But folks, it is not you, the parent. It is the government. It is a judge. It is a UN bureaucrat that will make such determination. Well, let's get to the phone lines. Our number here, 800-733-9829, to get your reaction to this today. 800-733-9829. Let's begin in Pulaski. And Julie, you're on the air.
Hi, thanks for taking my call, Jim. My husband is disabled, and I am wondering if this treaty will particularly pertain only to children, or if it would have effects on any disabled person, no matter what age.
My understanding.
And thanks for my call.
Yeah, sure. My understanding is that this is going to not only impact children with disabilities, but others as rights, giving various rights that such as, and Michael Farris had pointed this out as well in his testimony, that this would even be that of which would provide free abortion services to people with disabilities. So my understanding is not just children, but it is much more broad than that, that really undermines our sovereignty as a nation, while at the same time undermining even the things that we have, the Americans with Disabilities Act, local and state ordinances, even laws here in our own nation, but puts it under the United Nations. Let's go to Bayview. Mike, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Jim. All these things that are happening so fast are starting to bother me. I call in and try to get a hold of Cole and try to get a hold of these people, and it's like they're all brain dead. I can't understand why they're tearing this country apart the way they're doing it. There aren't any people that I know of that have disabilities, including myself, that wind up having problems in the street or with somebody else. I mean, people open doors. I just can't understand. And this Hillary Clinton, if people don't wake up and see that this country is just flushing itself right down the toilet and we get these people out of there, I don't see there's going to be a next time if Obama gets back in office. They even have people setting up to vote for their dead dogs.
Yeah.
You know, I just cannot believe it. We got to pray, but boy, I'll tell you, Satan's really got one grab on this whole world, I'll tell you that.
Thanks for your thoughts here today, Mike.
God bless you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Our number, 800-733-9829. Your reaction, folks, to the fast track that this treaty is making its way through the United States Senate. And again, Senator John McCain was there to represent a ratification of this treaty, talking about his colleagues that to bring about bipartisan support to bring about this UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I'll give you phone numbers here in just a moment for you to jot down. Right now, let's get your reaction, 800-733-9829. Jan, you're our next caller. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, I just think this is one more reason why we need to get a different president. I feel that Barack Obama has done enough damage already.
Okay. Thank you for your thoughts on it, Jan. Barack Obama signed this in 2009 and made its way through. It's been languishing, and then all of a sudden came forth for a hearing just a week ago. Last Thursday, this Thursday, committee voting on it, and the full U.S. Senate. At this point, Senator Kerry, who chairs this committee, is vowing that the U.S. Senate will have it passed by the end of next week. Michael Farris brought forth quite a testimony, bringing about three categories of arguments as he argued against this UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. He said that the promises that are made by the supporters of this treaty concerning the impact both on Americans and on disabled persons in other countries, he said they are false and very misleading. And he is also talking about the number two, that the changes to Americans' law that will be required to comply with the provisions of this treaty are profound and utterly unacceptable. Specifically, the changes regarding the rights of parents who have children with disabilities, which includes thousands, he said, of homeschool families, are absolutely inconsistent with some of the other constitutional principles and parental rights that we have in the nation. And then thirdly, his main premise, and he breaks each one of these down in his testimony, is that this treaty would constitute the most dangerous departure from the principles of American sovereignty and personal liberty in the history of the United States Senate. Let's go back to the lines. Greenfield and Harold, you're on the air.
Hi, Jim. Listen to your program. It's a great topic today. I tried to call our two senators from Wisconsin, and their lines are backed up. I couldn't get through. But I think this is just one more sign of the rapid conversion of the U.S. to the worldwide government, and this is just another political grab that I think our nation's under judgment for not staying with God.
You know, there really is, Harold, a huge push that's going on right now for all of these UN treaties. I mean, multiple of them. We just saw the big push and hearings that went forth with the Law of the Sea Treaty, and there were some courageous senators that just started a campaign to stop that thing from going forth and just announced they had finally 34 senators who would protect our sovereignty as a nation. And then we have, on the heels of that, discussions going all this month of July pertaining to this arms trade treaty, the ATT, and that's going to be voted on, or rather signed next week by Secretary Clinton as of this point. I mean, that's the game plan. And then at the same time, we have this UN treaty going on, and it's just, you're right, there's a huge push that's going on for this global government to take place.
It seems like that the push out for all of this UN stuff is in fear of the Democrats that are in control, that they may not get this through if there's a change nationally with our national leaders. It looks like a one final push.
Well, you may be right with that. At the same time, keep in mind that there are a number of Republicans as well that are in favor. I mean, I just talked about Senator John McCain, who went there to make a pitch to see that this treaty gets passed.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for your call. To, let's see, I believe it's Fairhope, Alabama, and Marty, you're on the air.
Yes, I'm so appalled at this treaty. I have a handicapped brother, and I have lived this for 59 years of my life. And for the government to tell me what's best with my brother, let me tell you about the government. The government, when I was in New York, I took my brother to the doctor. I was visiting there. I live in Alabama. I took my brother to the doctor because my brother had holes in his legs from his sugar. He was on Medicaid, and I took him in, and I said to the doctor, when's the last time you looked at his legs or his feet? His nails in his toes had grown in over the bottom, over the top of his toe and back into his toe. And this doctor, these are the government doctors that are supposed to be taking care of our handicapped people, had never even looked at his feet or his legs. And being a diabetic, he should check this every time he goes. I'm so outraged at this, and I also tried to call my Congress people, and they're so smart, and this is how our government works, that they have taken their lines off, and you get a busy signal, but I'll keep trying to get through, and I will pen out a letter to them tonight and send it to Miss Clinton, because she makes me sick. She has no idea what they're doing. This world, I look for God to come any day. Mm-hmm. These people that are in office, let me tell you, they cannot escape God Almighty. One day they will stand accountable for the things that they are doing to the people, and they just can't escape God. They're getting away with it now, but one day they will not get away with it.
We must.
And I'm so glad that you have a program like this that we can listen to every day, a Christian program that lets us know what's going on, and I urge the American people to do or write letters or do whatever, burn up their fax machines with letters. It's the only way that we're going to get them there. And we've got to stop putting these people in office that are behind all of this stuff. I've never met a politician yet, I think, that was honest and true. If they were honest and true when they got in there, they weren't. And it's sad that this is the law of the land. This is what we live in today. It's a mockery of God. And I think God is only going to allow it to go so far because these handicapped people, as my brother, who have lived this from birth, are God's chosen children, and he's only going to let this go just so far before he'll pull back the reins. And I hope that you will keep letting people know about this, because it just sickens me, because I love my brother, and I know what's best for my brother.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate so much. We've got a break. We'll take more calls in 60 seconds.
For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewweekend.com. Today is number 18 in our list of 20 characteristics of false teachers embraced by the false church. Number 18, false teachers, I believe, are part of God's judgment on a people and a nation. I think we can see that in 1 Kings chapter 22, 21 through 23, where we read, Then a spirit, which many believe, by the way, this spirit was Satan himself. Then a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord and said, I will persuade him. This is speaking of King Ahab and his 400 false prophets. The Lord said to him, In what way? So he, this spirit, or what I believe was Satan, said, I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And the Lord said, You shall persuade him, and you shall also prevail. Go out and do so. Therefore, look, the Lord has put a lying spirit in all of these prophets of yours, and the Lord has declared disaster against you. We see 400 false prophets demonically controlled as what? Part of God's judgment on that nation.
Another UN treaty has quickly taken center stage as we see the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities making its way through the Senate committee, and this would be the Senate committee here on Foreign Relations that is holding this. Well, they had a hearing last Thursday, and this Thursday they are convening at in the morning in order to take a vote on this treaty and then pass it on to the full U.S. Senate. I'm going to provide you a quick number of phone numbers here again. Your 2 U.S. senators can be reached. Now, keep in mind if you get busy signals now, because a lot of you are trying. So wait, within minutes after the program, or try a little bit later this afternoon. Try tomorrow and continue to let your voices be heard. But the main number to the Senate switchboard is 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. If you'd look like exact numbers to your senators, you can go to senate.gov, and it makes it very easy. On the top of the page there, you can find out who your senators are. You can find them by state and find their direct dial numbers. You'll have their email addresses. You can send an email to them at senate.gov. Now, both the majority office and the minority office have phone contacts on this committee on foreign relations. The majority, this would be the Democratic Party who leads this committee, their number is 202-224-4651. That's 202-224-4651. The minority party, the Republican Party's phone number is 202-224-6797. That's 224-6797. It doesn't matter if they have an R or a D behind their name. What matters is that you contact your 2 U.S. senators to let them know your views on another UN treaty that appears to be on a very fast track through the United States Senate. Signed by President Barack Obama, now up for ratification, and within a period of 14 days, they are seeking to have the hearing, have the committee vote, and then full passage by the Senate. Taking your reaction today on Crosstalk at 800-733-9829. Our next caller is from Michigan. Lori, thank you for holding. You're on the air.
Hi. I just really like the testimony of that last lady and how she talked about these people are in our government. They are going to be accountable to God someday. I was just like that. She just inspired me so much. But I want to say I served for almost 24 years in the military, and I served under the North Atlantic Treaty Organization doing peacekeeping in Croatia. And I remember seeing a wall built around our compound in the city of Zagreb, and it was a wall of bricks, and it had all the names of all the people who died because Barack Obama did nothing. And I'm sorry, not Barack Obama, I'm sorry, but he doesn't do anything either. I'm sorry, but the UN did nothing to protect them. The UN was supposed to be there patrolling, and they just allowed a bloodbath that was unbelievable, and the people there in the city were just horrified by what happened, and they would never let anybody forget. And they built that wall. Well, they actually tried to kill the UN workers. They were so angry.
Lori, I need to have you circle back to our topic here today, specifically on these UN treaties, your reaction to the treaties.
Well, I'm just saying the UN in general. I've seen it all around the world as I've traveled and what it does not do and how it is so terrible. So I could just imagine when you give people with disabilities over to the UN, that is another bloodbath. I just wanted to say that because it's so much of what I've seen over the years, and this is not an exaggeration. It's just the facts. And anyway, thank you so much for your program. God bless you.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you for your service to us as well. Bruce in Florida, you're on the air, Bruce.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'd just like to agree. I think that whole UN organization is just a total scam. It's corrupt, and I just believe that this is prophesied in the Word of God, that all these things are going to occur, and that there's a one-world government forming. And as much as good as it might do, the Lord God places people in authority, and He's the one that sets them up and tears them down. And all this is prophesied. And Barack Obama is terrible. I think he's evil. He's ruining this country. But again, we have to remember that this country is not our home. We're just aliens and pilgrims here, and heaven is our home. And all this should just cause us to look up and to pray to Him and not to appeal to Democrats, Republicans, or whatever.
Well, Bruce, let me just say this, and we have seen many illustrations throughout Scripture of those who God placed in such a time as they were for making a difference. We saw Jonah, who went to the people of Nineveh, a corrupt people who destruction was coming upon them, that was their destiny, but the people turned and repented, and God spared that city. We see also the Queen Esther as her people were about to be destroyed, and Mordecai said, "Who knows that you're not in that position for such a time as this?" She made appeal, of course, before the king. And we saw the people, the Jews protected because of God working through His servant in that regard. Case after case after case. We saw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who did not bow down to the image that the king had set up. So, Bruce, I want to be found faithful. And who knows if we're not here for such a time as this?
I agree with that. But, that God's word is foreordained.
I
everything
agree.
that He's prophesied will come to pass.
I totally agree.
And all I'm trying to say is, not to so much to appeal to man, but in His Word it does say to look to Him. And when you see all these things, all the signs, the weather and everything else, I know that's a little off topic, but to look up because your redemption draws nigh. And I just want to praise Him for that. And I just pray every day that He would come because He's the one who's going to deliver us out of this mess.
God bless you.
Thank you for taking my call, and I appreciate your program. God bless you all.
Thank you, Bruce. Bye-bye now. Very quickly to Elk River, Minnesota. Betty, you're on the air.
Yes. So a gentleman previously said that he tried to call and couldn't get through. I just want to encourage people that if they can't get through on the phone, email them because they can. Those messages go through, and someone will see it at your senator's office.
Great. And again, that site is senate.gov, and you can find your senators and email them directly.
Right. I have them. I have their names on my computer where I can send them a message whenever necessary.
Thanks for calling, Betty.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
And about 15 seconds, Sharon in Milwaukee. Go ahead.
Okay, what I want to say is that we're literally being controlled by the United Nations from the birth to the grave. And the United States needs to get out of the UN, but they need to understand that it's coming. Like we see the chain of command coming down, Agenda 21. Mm-hmm. Then you see a sustainable development.
And this is just another issue. I'm sorry we're out of time. Thank you, Sharon, for your call. Folks, we'll post these numbers on our website here. They'll be up within not too much longer here at crosstalkamerica.com. But the numbers to your U.S. Senators, 202-224-3121. And I agree with our previous caller. We need to bathe this matter in prayer and take it to the Lord as well. Thanks for joining us today on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Take Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.